Welcome back to the Florida Relocation Guide, your smartest way to move to and/or buy a new construction home across the entire Sunshine State. I'm your host, Adam Hancock, once again, and today we have a new community update. 10 developments you should really be aware of right now across Sarasota Greater in 2024. But more importantly, I wanted this list of neighborhoods to serve as a conduit of sorts to really help you narrow down the dozens of neighborhoods that exist outside of these as well. The master plan areas, the builders, the pricing, the orientation versus your specific criteria, etc. I'm going to move relatively quickly here so we can get through the whole video, and I really hope you enjoy. And of course, if I can assist you in any way around the Florida real estate market, do not hesitate to reach out. Let's hop in. Number one in no particular order is Palmera at Wellen Park. We are heading down very south here in this part of Sarasota County below downtown Venice Island and in a relative triangle of western North Fort, northern Englewood, and southern Venice. Palmera is one of the absolute newest offerings thrown into the heap of communities that make up the master plan development of Wellen Park, which is by far one of the sexiest, most progressive things going on across the whole state of Florida, giving you new construction, neighborhood-based homes really close to the coast, prospectively speaking, which isn't super common, unbelievable communal amenities on top of that, and very old Florida-style laid-back town, which is a fantastic combination. One of the reasons that I wanted to put this one in the video, beyond just the newness factor, which if you're in the planning stages of relocation, this gives you a lot of legs because of the abundance, is that beyond that, I think Palmera plugs a good-sized hole that existed over the last year and a half when it comes to total options for buyers. Previously, when you looked at this particular development, which is made up of two districts, the original one called the West Villages, and of course the new one called Playmore, which everyone's excited about, it appeared on the surface that you could call your shots. Tons of things going on. Grand Palm and Renaissance, Wisteria, Abilena, Sunstone, Solstice, Grand Place, bunch of builders, bunch of communities. Take your pick. Well, then you get into it, and most people's criteria, in my experience, you're like, okay, well, there's only 96 homes, doesn't quite work for me. This one has 50% of the homes sold out right away, and almost the whole neighborhood was pre-built, spec homes, not for me and my family. This one over here is kind of between luxury and not. This one has no amenities and an HOA over $300 still. This one is a boutique custom build under 50 homes, and you're just kind of like a square peg in a round hole. Well, I think Palmera gives you a really refreshing alternative in both scale and variety. Number two, Vistera of Venice. So I've been beating this drum for at least a few months now, and that is the maturing of North Venice, Florida. The thing is, once you cross south of the Sarasota city limits, you hit a handful of other cities that are still in Sarasota County: Osprey, Nokomis, Venice, North Fort, and Englewood. But all is not equal in this conversation. If you took downtown Venice, Florida as your central point, then really everything else evolves with going below the island or above it. Now, the big reason to go below it, amongst others, is of course the Wellen Park district that I talked about so much. That is below the island, new, all kinds of stuff going on, so that is going to yank a fair amount of folks down. But one of the real keys, in contrast to going north of the island, is you really hop back into a much closer access to all the Sarasota stuff. And even the lower Lakewood Ranch stuff, Siesta Key, downtown Sarasota, Lido, Fruitvale Commons, Waterside, and all of that. And while you may gain the potential geography benefit that comes with that, you do lose a lot of the ease in navigation, especially if you are from out of state. These areas are going to be a smattering of a few new home communities amongst stuff that has been there forever. A lot of land, especially Osprey, Nokomis, North Venice, almost look like drive-through towns on the way from Sarasota to Venice, not necessarily a place that you'd stop and settle down in between. And it's just a bit more ambiguous than the Pleasantville type of master plan communities that look like they do online. However, if you can keep an open mind, this can allow for a fantastic balance, in my opinion, of what many seek when relocating to Southwest Florida. Relatively close to all the arts and the culture and the various different town centers and things that are thrown about town. Good east to west proximity to shoot over and enjoy the beaches and the bay, whether that's Nokomis, Casey Key, Siesta Key, or what may have you. It's just might not be the 14 neighboring new construction communities with the downtown that's also built in a perfect way. It might be somewhere in between, which potentially you could prefer. And with all of that being said, I think Vistera of Venice 1 is located in an area that I just hyped up pretty good, so that's a good reason to be on the list. But also it's a great talking head to kick off the understanding of a thought exercise and potential value of a neighborhood like this. And it's not like they haven't done this before, in my opinion, because if you look right above this area with Palmer Ranch, which was the original master plan suburb in South Sarasota, or even look directly above to Skye Ranch, you can see a line of sight potentially of what this could be in 8 to 15 years. Number three, Skye Ranch, Sarasota, probably the most natural block to build off our second community. And this is simply the northern version of a lot of what I just went over. If you come to town, say you hit Lakewood Ranch, learn a little bit, you shoot down to Venice, got a great juxtaposition of the bookends of town, and you're like, what else is there? Well, Skye Ranch sits right basically in the center. You know, you look above you to the north, you can enjoy all the northeast part of town has to offer, which is the big suburban jam right now. Fruitvale Commons, Waterside Place, University Town Center, Lower Lakewood Ranch. It's so in vogue. You look to your left, you go west, you have downtown Sarasota, the cultural coast of the state. Lido Key is 4.7 miles from that. Siesta Key, 4.7 miles in the other direction. St. Armand Circle, Siesta Key Village. It's cosmopolitan. You have the bay in between, shopping, dining, all of that. And even shooting south to Venice, Englewood, etc., you're not that far from any of that either. So this is almost the suburban foundation to a lot of what makes Sarasota, Florida great. And if that perked you up at all, what is especially cool about this one, because of that theme that I hinted at earlier, that you get excited about one of these ideas like this, and there's not enough abundance for a lot of people to do anything with it, which is discouraging to say the least. Skye Ranch, on the other hand, has really done a nice job, in my opinion, at trying to give people as many options as possible based on the information that they have. This is a master plan community majorly built by Taylor Morrison Homes that then takes that and peacocks it in 3 or 4 different directions to try to satiate the needs that one individual development typically can't do. And it does that by having 3 separate neighborhoods by different names, all a part of the one Skye Ranch area. It's got family-friendly stuff that has a lot more affordability for the size, 2-story models, fantastic amenities. It has more, in theory, adult-based communities from some of its flagship brands, floor plans that give people a Sarasota version of what they might have loved from some of the golf communities in Lakewood Ranch or South Sarasota historically, with some privatized amenities, some townhome offerings for both different life models, as well as investment, mixed builder, public parks, great schools, and more. Number 4, Star Farms. We are heading up to Lakewood Ranch, Florida for the very first time in this video, and this is the northeast of town, one of the biggest and best master plan communities by far in the entire state of Florida. Really the United States as a whole, in my opinion. It's super multi-generational, multiple downtowns within it, 35, 40 plus new construction communities. The oldest house in the entire place was built in 1995, just crazy stuff. And when areas are built like this, which doesn't happen that often, they're so robust, really cities on their own. All is not equal. There are communities inside Lakewood Ranch that are 8.5 miles one way to town. Other communities that are also in Lakewood Ranch that are 20 miles one way to town. Not a huge material difference, but it is significant. And more than that, what happens over time is the realistic shopping of someone that is relocating starts to get quadranted off. They're in sections, so you have Waterside 1, then you also have that original district that was from University Parkway up to State Road 64 along the Lakewood Ranch Boulevard corridor. Lakewood Ranch High School, Summerfield, Central Park, Mallory Park, Indigo, that general area. You also have that new stuff going east of that along State Road 70, Uline, Lorraine with Sapphire Point, Sweetwater, Lorraine Lakes, just a lot going on in general. And just like that, many of the communities that I've mentioned, in a world of tons of options, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, in my experience, most people actually trying to make a purchasing decision right now. I'm surprised if there's even a list of 2 to 3 on a short list that they find comparable to each other. So what Star Farms does that I really do like is they go up in an area that's 100% is considered a little bit too far. This is the 20-mile range of the stuff that I mentioned. A little bit far from downtown Lakewood Ranch, Waterside, University Town Center. It's even further from the beaches, downtown, all of that. But it gets you in a much more average, affordable, and potentially with a broad brush, ease of family-friendly schools, at least right now, housing criteria, things like that because of the neighborhoods up there. So what they've done well, specifically in my opinion, is they built around the idea of once you get up in this general territory, maybe you actually have most of what you need. Almost a mini planned suburb within one neighborhood, within the master plan suburb as a whole. So it's a value on top of value, similar to like a Skye Ranch value proposition. You have multiple builders, tiered amenity structure. It's a very intentional, lifestyle-based community in every sense of the word. So I think it possibly gives people a little bit softer landing spot where previously, especially a year or two ago, maybe this part of Lakewood Ranch was inherently a locational sacrifice. Number 5, Magnolia Bay. And at this point in the video, I don't have to get as crazy because I can build upon previous ideas that we've already vetted out. And Magnolia Bay specifically piggybacks upon that maturing of North Venice conversation I talked about with our number 2, Vistera of Venice. You know, it's above downtown Venice Island. It's not that far from the coast or anything Sarasota really has to offer. It's not as crazy as a super master plan environment, but an unbelievable geography. And this is right in there, directly above it. It gives you another option. That's the name of the game. And for the most part, my evergreen premise is that variety and abundance helps relocation, new construction buyers especially. It definitely does not hurt them. Number 6, Shellstone at Waterside. We are hopping over to that lower part of Lakewood Ranch, Florida, the master plan community that's northeast of town. And this neighborhood is a part of a dozen plus communities that currently make up the first entrance of Lakewood Ranch into Sarasota County, where historically it was all Manatee. So basically, this just means lower. It's a bit closer to town, which removes a little bit of the knock that the suburbs benefits are gained by losing the coast. And also, Lakewood Ranch was built in a way where currently most of the communal amenities are also lower. You have Waterside that has a proper new downtown called Waterside Place built within it. Shopping, dining, Florida's #1 farmers market, beautiful place, open water. Then the original downtown Lakewood Ranch is just a few miles north of it. Then University Town Center, you have Center Point, 2 other communal commercial districts are just down the street from that. So if you get in this area, you've got a lot going on. And the big reason I like Shellstone right now, amongst others, is that Waterside's communities were really built as a peacock. I think one problem with shopping within Lakewood Ranch is that a lot of the parts of Lakewood Ranch that people want to be in, sometimes the availability versus their exact criteria doesn't fit. And it's a little bit discouraging because you might not want to go to the other areas where your criteria does fit. So then you start to look at other parts of town and it gets a little bit overwhelming. Well, Waterside is very much in one of the most niche conversations as it relates to communities like this. When it was first built, you had Shoreview by Pulte, which was only like 250 homes, amazing piece of land, but Pulte's not necessarily for everyone, especially at this price point. It wasn't what they had done as much in the past from a familiarity standpoint, amazing area, premium price point. People were like, all right, trying to figure that out. Then you throw in Lake House Cove, kind of sister community of sorts, homes by town plus custom builders, which gave you an alternative to that one so that you had to see if that worked for you as well. And in addition to those two, I don't think a lot of people consider Windward or even technically consider Windward a part of Waterside, but it was right there. So you had Windward with Neal Communities to give you a third tier, which gave you a little bit more affordability, family friendliness, nature to it. And you just had those 3. And a lot of people that didn't work for. And then Sarasota County, because it's so new, you couldn't do the Lakewood Ranch schools unless you had school choice. So you're faced with that tough decision on public schools, depending on your kid's age range. And you can kind of see how you're like, all right, what do I do with this information? And then they recently added a ton of neighborhoods behind it. But what they did, just to give you an example, not to get too crazy here, but you had the Alcove, which is only 46 home, Neal signature, it's semi-custom. There's no amenities, but it still is an HOA. Then you have Avanti, which was another Pulte one. It's a lot more affordable product, but very, very small homes, villas, single families, but they're small. And then you start to move over the lakes and you have Nautique, which is MI homes, but there's like 200 something total lots available. 180 plus of them are townhomes versus single families. Emerald Landing, David Weekley, these are the really cool loft style villas, narrow 3-story single family homes, but it's so unique that it has to be for you or it's not. Then you keep going, you got some custom builders, Kingfisher Estates, you have Wild Blue, which is like a new version of the Lake Club that comes at a premium. So you could see how even with the abundance, it still might not work. Well, all that to say, I like the void that Shellstone currently fills because what it gives you is Lake House Cove ×2. A lot of people really like Lake House Cove, very coastal aesthetic. They did something cool with their floor plans, which we'll talk about more here in a minute. But the smaller ones even, they were very intentional. They were almost like built on purpose, like they were small. It was more for empty nester and lifestyle model than necessarily just small square footage for affordability. And you saw that with the K, you saw that with the Halyard. A lot of people really enjoyed that. Even some of the coastal Northeast style that they had in there all throughout the community, people could relate to that relocated net migration-wise from similar areas. And then beyond that, some of the bigger floor plans like the Thailand was one of my favorites, just a cool way it was laid out. They also had the Fairlead in this neighborhood as well. So in the current market, if you're not buying the old Lake House Cove, there's really not a lot that competes right now in Lower Lakewood Ranch directly with this. Number 7, Everly at Wellen Park. We are heading back down south below downtown Venice Island to the new Playmore District. And the primary reason that this one made my list is that it's really the first multi-builder luxury neighborhood in this specific area. I mentioned briefly a few times the lack of custom building environment in this particular region. And I even think that maybe a hesitancy on the side of the builders of whether or not the market or the consumer base would actually bear this kind of product. But what I saw over the last couple of years, the development and the city progressed in a way that was faster than the home variety that caught up with it. Relocation buyers were looking at Lakewood Ranch, the urban infill parts of western coastal Sarasota, central Sarasota, etc. When they tried to juxtapose the Venice area, they were met with neighborhoods that they did not feel met the standard that they were quite going for. Everly is going to add a great alternative to that. Right now, you have 4 custom or semi-custom brands, including John Cannon, Lee Weatherington, Neal Signature, and Homes by West Bay. They're wider lots on average, 50-acre lake. It's a neighborhood setting that's not so boutique that it doesn't have any amenities. So they're going to have a nice amenity offering overall. And if you looked at what was there before they arrived, you had Toll Brothers, which gives you a nice offering, but it's not a custom guy. And this is even their pared down product at Solstice. Closest might have been Sam Rogers to Everly previously with Grand Place. But again, it's under 50 homes. It's very, very family-oriented, boutique builder, which is awesome. But if it's not for you, you don't have a plan B really, and Everly comes in to add a nice complement to the already very compelling array. Number 8, Emerald Landing at Waterside. We are headed back to the lower Lakewood Ranch area and talking David Weekley homes. What I love here in big part is both the unique element and the individual positioning. David Weekley as a company, if you're not super familiar, definitely builds a fair share of what I would consider normal neighborhoods, all throughout Florida, Texas, and beyond. Single family heavy neighborhoods that are very coastal aesthetic a lot of times. Reminds me personally a ton of Neil Communities front elevation style. Also a company that is very much more of a boutique outfit, for lack of better words. It's an intentional family-based company. I built 3 homes with them personally. Well, what they do in addition to that is they put out offerings through the central living division as well. And they've done this right outside of downtown Sarasota. I've seen this all throughout St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, the Tampa Bay area, and beyond. And these are different city living style floor plans and homes. You'll see 3-story single family homes that are long and lean. You'll see 2-story townhomes like loft style, second floor living rooms, balconies, all this kind of thing. Just not your typical 3-bedroom, 2.5 single story with a den floor plan that Sarasota has really gotten accustomed to. And if you take all of this and throw it in the Waterside district, talk about a match made in heaven. Unbelievable location, some available views of the large Kingfisher Lake, walkability to Waterside Place, and I think this gives you, one, a really nice change of pace. If you're, say, downsizing from 5,000 square feet with a basement in Massachusetts or New Jersey and retiring down here, but also a property that is most likely going to be pretty different than your average neighbor and potentially even give you a nice upside when it comes to appreciation, perceived value, and long-term investability. Number 9, 2 more, North River Ranch. This is a real mountain out of a molehill community to me. There's a lot going on, and what I would like to do is spend a little bit more time for this one telling you what it actually is, but let me give you the quick and dirty version of why I think it actually matters. North River Ranch is located in a city called Parrish, Florida. And what Parrish is, with a broad brush to the total metro, it's an area that got or is getting popular as an offshoot of Lakewood Ranch, Florida's popularity. What I mean by that, and I've went over Lakewood Ranch a bunch of times so far, huge master plan development, multi-generational, tons of neighborhoods, all this stuff going on. Well, North River Ranch is located almost directly 14 miles above Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So the question is, why would you go north if you could be in Lakewood Ranch? Why would you get further from the main Sarasota stuff, the downtown, the main beaches, if you didn't have to? Well, therein lies the whole value proposition in the simplest form possible. Paris started becoming in vogue because people bled that way to get more for less. This could mean more square footage of a house for the same price as a similar house in Lakewood Ranch. This could be a pool in Parrish where you couldn't afford one in Lakewood Ranch. This could be a single family home in Parrish where you could afford a townhome or a villa in Lakewood Ranch. You get the point. But this was the name of the game, so not as much of a one is good and a one is bad, it's more of just a choice. It's what you are looking to do versus what's actually available. Well, because of all this land in Parrish was available above Lakewood Ranch and this stuff was happening, many of the builders in Lakewood Ranch built sister communities out in Parrish. Windward in the Waterside district, for instance, of Lakewood Ranch, the same builder built Canoe Creek out in Parrish. Del Webb of Lakewood Ranch, the 55 and up arm of Pulte Homes, built Del Webb Bayview out in Parrish and now has multiple additional Del Webbs out there. There are Taylor Morrison versions out in Parrish, Coulter Homes that built Crestwind and Artistry. They're out there in Parrish, and on and on and on. Well, when you begin navigating the Parrish, Florida market, you are immediately going to see that it's not quite as turnkey. Apologies for the rhyme. And the new construction communities aren't going to feel quite as interconnected to each other. You're not going to see these brand new large downtown centers available to you. The public school districts are going to be a little trickier, and a lot of people find themselves struggling with what this means against Lakewood Ranch specifically. Should I consider going to Venice as an alternative? And then they're looking at all these items. This is what I think North River Ranch especially gives an interesting take to solve, be the solution to. This is another community like Vistera of Venice that is headed up by Neil Land Development Company. And they've done some of what Star Farms has done in building their own master plan development within an area, trying to make it inclusive to take away the fears maybe related to being out in this particular geography. And lastly, number 10, Beachwalk by Manasota Key. We are going to finish off by going in the opposite direction of Parrish, down south below Venice to Englewood, Florida. And this is going to give you a very rare opportunity of full new construction neighborhood just 2.5 miles one way to the beach. Beachwalk is built by DeValsta Homes, which is another brand by Pulte. And DeValsta to me is kind of their amenity-rich outfit. It's almost their version of Esplanade by Taylor Morrison. It's gated, there's no CDD. Their DeValsta neighborhoods always have a huge range of floor plans. You can take something from like 2 bedrooms all the way up to 5 or 6. And they have some good staple floor plans in their single family collections as it cascades up within the different lot widths that people really find foundational, just like Taylor Morrison again in a lot of ways. Now, I like this one a lot right now, not just because of the coastal proximity, but also the timing. I thought Beachwalk and its sister community, Talon Preserve, which is up in the Nokomis area, were a little bit ahead of their time, and I've said that in the past. They were both on the forefront of a really unique value, super coastal. The way that the neighborhood just oriented the geography at the time was awesome. But they were just way out in front of it, and they didn't discount the price necessarily to orient that timeline. So people just did not quite understand it, and I tried. Beachwalk, sitting in Englewood before the Palmera district of Wellen Park was established, was a huge gap from people leaving Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, and going in this direction. And typically Englewood, you went to gain a huge discount because it was almost like a junior Venice, and Venice was a junior Sarasota. So people are like, if I'm gonna go all the way down there, and basically I can't go anywhere below it, even in Naples, I need to go east and then south. So I'm going to get this maybe more peaceful but inconvenient location. I want a huge benefit for doing so. And all the neighborhoods around the Rotunda and the Manasota Key area, for the most part, stayed true to that. Well, this one was priced kind of normal, and people frankly didn't understand it like I mentioned. However, they built all of Wellen Park, and what Wellen Park didn't do is it didn't stay central to Venice. It went super far south in perspective. So now if you look at the map and you say, where are all these neighborhoods situated? They're all down there. So because of that progression over time, people got cooler with going further south. Because it bled, it trickled. But what a lot of folks haven't done is they haven't taken a step back and look at Beachwalk fresh as a part of the same conversation. Because if you do, potentially you're in a better location. You're closer to Manasota Key Beach by far. You have a great balanced neighborhood with respective affordability, especially in this current state, that probably will only get better. And you're in the same distance or closer as well to Venice beaches. And now that all the communal amenities built like downtown Wellen, which are public, this neighborhood can access all of those as well. So trending value is what I find incredibly attractive. All right, that is a wrap of today's edition of the Florida Relocation Guide, your smartest way to move to and or purchase a new construction home across the entire Sunshine State. My name is Adam Hancock once again. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. I love having you here now, but also would love for you to see what's coming for the balance of the year. We have a ton of value planned. Beyond that, if you're somewhat even remotely interested in the Florida real estate market, especially when it comes to Southwest Florida, Sarasota, Tampa Bay, Naples, Fort Myers, Greater, I think we have 3 main ways that we could really assist you. One, if you go to the sunshinestateco.com, our main hub website, we'll put it here somewhere. Free resources, stuff you can really enjoy autonomously. Relocation, flip books, analytical tools I put out many per year. We have a great Friday newsletter that I send out on most Fridays that are bite-sized, 5, 6, 7 pieces of information that you can think about. In addition to that, number 2, asking questions. I know it sounds simple, but say you don't want to hop on the phone yet. Email the address below, go to the contact page on the website. If you're in the middle of researching and you're watching these videos to try to accent your independent research, one of the best ways you can shortcut this thing, cut it in half, is let us help you kick the stone down the road. By asking the right question, in my experience, early on, you can narrow really, really intensely and save yourself a lot of time both now and when you come in town. And lastly, I mean, there's no magic bullet like a quick phone call, because what that's going to allow you to do is say, hey, my name is John. I am looking to do this. I live here currently. I've done this so far. I saw this video and perked up when you said this. What should I do next? What else should I look at? I'm coming in town in November. What should I do in between? And then you could even take our system. We can take that baton when you come in town, so you can both go visit all of these things to prove this thesis experiments that you're working on when you come in town with the same person that you just built context with for 3 or 4 months. That is the ideal way to relocate, and that's the ideal way to buy new construction efficiently, in my opinion. So if it's relevant to you, please consider any of those items. And most importantly, thank you guys so much for watching any of my content. It is not lost on me. I appreciate your time. We'll see you on the next one.